Hello and welcome to our Monarch Unlimited Sealed Deck number 3. My name's Jesse Marshall. Hopefully you've enjoyed the videos so far in this series. If you are enjoying our Monarch content, don't forget to like and subscribe to support the channel. We'll be back with our fourth and final for this particular series, Sealed Deck video shortly. And we've also got some gameplay videos up on the channel, playing through Prism and Chain as well. We're also going to have some deck techs hopefully coming out later this week. Let us know in the comments if there's some other particular content you'd like to see about Flesh and Blood. Otherwise, we hope you're enjoying our strategy content covering this exciting new card game. Let's dive straight in. So here we are with pool number 3. Let's see, we've had one Prism deck and a Chain deck so far. Out of this box is Blasmafet, the harbinger of a Leviah deck. Let's find out. Well, that's a good Leviah card first up. We've got the Dread Screamer in yellow. We've got a red Rip Through Reality and a red Deadwood Rumbler. So two good Leviah attacks to start us off. A Herald of Tenacity yellow, not one of the most powerful of the heralds. An Express Lightning, a War Tune Herald. A Blinding Beam red, which is going to be particularly nice, obviously, in Prism. A Blue Illuminate, another good card for Prism. A red Belittle. Let's just scoot these across so we can have two rows of generics. A Void Wraith yellow. A double blue Blood Tribute. Not exactly what you want to see, but decent resource cards that can help you to trigger Leviah. So probably some good Leviah cards there. And then two good Prism rares and a generic equipment. So all in all, after that pack, with those two rares tilting the balance a little bit, we've kind of ended up pretty strong on Prism, but also with some definite good signs in Leviah. A little bit of optimism that we might be able to make a Leviah deck work here. That yellow Void Wraith, of course, also playable from the Banished Zone in Leviah decks, is not irrelevant to those considerations. So a yellow Riftbind, a red Unworldly Bellow, very powerful for setting up big turns. The red version obviously giving +4, even better probably than the others, as long as you have other resource cards to fuel them and fuel those turns. A blue Bolt of Courage, again, not coming in with like any super powerful bolts and stuff here. I mean, my vibe is that if I'm going to go into Bolton, it's going to be because I've got heaps of this stuff, Belittles, Warmonger's Recitals, as well as like a V of the Vanguard or something else to really push it over the edge. But in a lot of seals pools I've seen, I'm rarely kind of just drawn to Bolton by the raw power of the cards or anything like that. So more shadow cards here. Quite a lot of talent cards for 2 packs between all of these shadow and light cards. I guess the 2 shadow foils helps. A Halo of Illumination, extremely important as we discussed earlier in Prism in particular. Also handy obviously in Bolton, but particularly good in Prism for enabling that Spectral Shield on turn 1 on the draw. And a Nourishing Emptiness for a Majestic generic. So that is probably going to make it into whatever deck we make. And a Battlefield Blitz, which actually a red Battlefield Blitz is pretty powerful for Bolton, as long as you charge. What we really need is take flights. If we end up with 3 or more take flights here, then the Battlefield Blitz is going to be great because we know that we're going to be able to have turns where we charge, get go again, just because take flight has it naturally, and then we can Battlefield Blitz. So that's something to look out for. Second swing, okay, but we need a bit more to actually get us to that second weapon attack. Probably not going to happen all that often. And then Bolt of Courage, blue, and yellow Express Lightning, not really that exciting. So a smash with Big Tree blue in Brute, helping Leviah come back into contention a little bit there. A Bounding Demagon, a blue Deadwood Rumbler, as discussed last time, a blue with 6 power. It doesn't defend, but it's still got a lot going for it. A blue Tenacity, so we're really not seeing the more powerful heralds here. A red Watching Herald's nice, but double Tenacity, not exactly what we want to see. Although obviously in limited, Tenacity does have some capacity to close out games, particularly if we were to have this red Phantasmify. you know, turning a yellow Herald of Tenacity into a 10 power dominate attack, particularly if we do pick up Dreamweavers, is nothing to sneeze at. And we have already got the Halo, so I wouldn't write Prism off entirely here. Red Rebirth is a more powerful attack for us there. Yellow Pound for a Pound, not the best variant, nor the yellow Stony Wootenhog. A red Brandish, decent. Yellow Rally the Rearguard, and a blue Belittle with a Seek Enlightenment for foil. Now, Seek Enlightenment, certainly fine in Prism, but particularly good in Bolton. So we've got 2 Seek Enlightenments here. You know, it costs 1. It buffs your next attack action card. So it can actually turn your first Bolt of Courage or Express Lightning on in terms of you being able to actually use your hero ability on it. So they could be key enablers if we were to end up in Bolton here. Hooves of the Shadow Beast, bringing back some of that Leviathan power as well. Dustpath Pilgrimage for Bolton, and a Consuming Aftermath, which can be used by either Leviathan or Chain. Pack number 4 now. So we're halfway through opening up the packs, and the pool is looking a little on the weaker side, although kind of we've got a decent base here. You know, with the double Seek Enlightenment, a Take Flight, a Battlefield Blitz, I'm sort of feeling the base and the core of a decent Bolton deck. Very light on chain cards, and a couple of rares in that first pack, really setting us up with the base for a decent Prism deck as well. So a couple of chain cards and another Slaughter Beast there, leading us off in pack 4. A nice Herald of Protection red. That is a hard hitter that gives you a lot of benefit. Can't be underestimated how much of a difference that free Spectral Shield on hit makes with that card. Impenetrable Belief for the decent Impenetrable Belief. I always stumble on that when I say it too quickly. Another decent card for defending against Chain or Leviathan in the late game. A Lunatide Plunderer, another yellow, which is a 6-power attack, key for Leviathan there. Warmonger's Recital blue, perfectly serviceable in most decks. An Ebon Fold, giving us another piece of equipment. So we've got the Hooves and the Ebon Fold for Leviathan, looking pretty reasonable there. A Glisten and a Vexing Malice to close out the rares in pack 4. So a Glisten certainly can do some work in either, so I should put that here, it's a light card, in either Bolton or Prism, but obviously you're much better off playing it in Prism. In Bolton, it's really just an attack reaction that can, you know, give +4 to something, surprisingly, which can be key on those big turns to give your your Bolt of Courages or your Express Lightnings the extra power to enable you to give them go again. So Glisten can certainly find a home in those Bolted decks, but obviously being able to put it on a Spectral Shield where at the end of the turn the +1 counters don't go away is sort of where you want to be at. And a red Vexing Malice, a nice chain rare, but I'm really not thinking that we're going to be playing chain with this pool shaping up the way it is. Nourishing Emptiness, that generic Majestic we opened, obviously triggering its additional ability if you have no attack action cards in your graveyard, and that's rarely going to happen other than perhaps in Leviathan in Limited, but still on turn 1 it's obviously a super powerful play. And there are definitely situations where in Leviathan it can push you over the edge a little bit. So a Herald of Ravagers, another Express Lightning. So we're up to 3 Express Lightnings, 1 Take Flight, 1 Bolt of Courage. So not looking too bad in terms of charge cards in Bolton. There's a little bit of dust on that Enigma Chimera. A Spew Shadow, another good one for Leviathan, allowing you to play your banished attack actions again. And a Howl from Beyond and a Void Wraith. So yeah, definitely some decent Shadow generics here. Sorry, they're a little bit out of the camera frame. I'll try and just bring everything down just a tad. I'm trying to balance it all here. So a few decent generics, including the 2 Blood Tributes, which can turn on Levi's ability on a key turn, but they're also blues, so they can function as resources for us on those earlier turns. And this red Howl from Beyond, which we can play from the Banished Zone in either Chain or Leviathan, but I think it's actually, funnily enough, better in Leviathan for giving you those punishing late game plays. And this Consuming Aftermath can also be part of those big turns as well. Anyway, a yellow Blood Tribute to add in there. A yellow Memorial Ground, not an amazing card. A red Illuminate, a blue Minnowism, a Riftbind, a Gallantry Gold. So coming back here with some decent Bolton action. Another Battlefield Blitz, and then a Rouse the Ancients, which particularly good if we've got sevens, because if you can pitch a blue, play Rouse the Ancients, and then have a 7 and a 6 in your hand, then you can obviously go off for 7 with Go Again, which is huge. If you don't have critical mass, though, of 7s, then it's probably not worth including as a zero attack for 0, block for 2, although it is still a blue pitch card, so maybe just makes the cut in Levia anyway. Oh, just smash my Levia pool. So in terms of 7s, it's probably worth having a quick look here. So we've got the Hungering Slaughter Beast Red, which is a 7. We've got the Deadwood Rumbler, which is an 8, not the camera. So we do have 2, and then we've got a couple also in Prism if we end up going that way. We've got the Wartune Herald, the Enigma Chimera, the Herald of Protection, and the Herald of Rebirth. So I can certainly see a world, either if we play Prism or Levia, where that Rouse the Ancients plays a role. So at the moment we're sitting on Halo of Illumination and Gallantry Gold for Bolton, only Halo and Ironhide Gauntlets for Prism, but we've got the Gauntlet, the Hooves, and the Ebonfold for Levia. So Levia's probably slightly ahead in terms of the equipment here. Riftbind, look, Chain building up a little bit of momentum here, but still not exactly the cards we want to see. Only 1 Seeds of Agony, and nothing really special in the mythic or rare slot there. So probably not going to be Chain's day. A yellow Graveling Growl, which does hit for 6 in a yellow, which is not bad. An Arcanic Crackle for Chain. A red Courageous Steel Hand, helping to bring Bolton up a little bit, but it's really the single take flight that's killing it here. Only a single take flight, a few too many blues, and really just not enough power to close out a game. An Engulfing Light giving us another charge card, and it is a red, so that's something to think about. A red Void Wraith, which is going to be really nice in Levia. A little blue Belittle, which we're probably not going to play if we do play Levia, but something else for Chain. A red Spew Shadow to add on to, I think we had a yellow earlier. Yep. So 2 Spew Shadows. Another Memorial Ground. Another Blood Tribute. An Unworldly Bellow Yellow. A Blood Drop Brocade, which is really handy because it gives us a nice chest piece for Levia to round out the set of equipment. So Ebonfold, Who's the Shadow Beast, Ironhide Gauntlet, and Blood Drop Brocade. I think giving us a pretty nice little Levia equipment setup there. A yellow Convulsions to finish off as well. So I think, given the volume of shadow cards we've got here, and an Unhallowed Rites too, still not, I don't think, pushing us over the edge into Chain. So I'm just not feeling this Chain deck quite as much. I mean, we've got Vexing Malice, we've got an Arcanic Crackle, and then we've got a couple of Rip Through Realities and a couple of Piercing Shadow Vise, or just the one Piercing Shadow Vise. Yeah, it's just not... Yeah, it's not quite feeling cohesive in the same way. With the 2 yellow Riftbinds and the blue Riftbind, I'd kind of prefer one of those to be red. We've got the Void Wraiths, but we don't have the Ghostly Visit, which is where I prefer to be with the Blood Deck cards when you're soaking up so many resources on those later turns. And just the 1 Seeds. So I think we can probably put Chain to one side there this time. I think Bolton, we've obviously got a lot of Bolton cards here, but just the 1 Take Flight, although we do have the 2 Battlefield Blitz, a few different ways to charge. So 1, 2... 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ways to charge. Borderline, I think we'd probably like 1 or 2 more. We do have a couple of Seek Enlightenments to help us to buff our initial charge attacks that aren't take flight, to give us the 2 attack turns that we want. But I'm still just not quite sure that Bolton is there. The Glisten, really nice. But I think the equipment deficit also probably pushes that slightly out of contention. So I think it would be a decent Bolton deck, and I wouldn't mind playing it, but I'm just a little bit more excited about putting together this Levia deck, particularly since we've got 2 Majestics in Nourishing Emptiness and Rouse the Ancients, which work best in Levia, plus the full equipment set. Prism, I think, is probably second. after Leviah here, even though we haven't got the best heralds. I don't think we have any protection. So we've got the 1 red protection, and we haven't got any Spears of Surreality. We have still got quite a lot of high power attacks, particularly to support the Rouse the Ancients, as well as a few decent heralds, but we're probably lacking 1 or 2 on the blues. Just going back to our light cards, we have got the 1 blue Seek Enlightenment and the 1 blue Illuminate, but probably not enough to quite support that Leviah pool, and not really a lot of the that Prism pool, not really a lot of the generic high power attacks that we'd want to support Prism there either. So let's lay out this Leviah pool here. Might go non-attack actions, attack actions that are 6 or more, and then attack actions that are not 6 or more. And then we can divide by resources later. So only the 1 Dread Screamer this time. I think in one of our previous pools we had 3 Dread Screamers. We've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 cards for Leviah, but we've got so many shadow cards here that I think we're going to be able to make this work pretty well. So we've got the blue Blood Tributes. I think we're more likely to play, even though they're not super powerful cards. They're resources early and they're helping us to get 6s banished late. A little bit concerned about how many 6s we've got, because with both the Void Wraiths playable from the banished zone but not being 6s, we've only got the Lunatide Plunderer to add here as a 6 from the shadow pool. So we may actually run a little bit short on playable 6s, and we might have to abandon the Leviah plan, or at least consider whether it's still the best way to go. The Spew Shadows help us to trigger the 6s again, because we can pitch a blue, play Spew Shadow, play Graveling Growl, for instance, from the banished zone. Not Graveling Growl, it's a bad example. Play Boneyard Marauder from the banished zone, putting the Boneyard Marauder into our graveyard, and then play something else to banish the Boneyard Marauder from the graveyard, or at least use the Boneyard Marauder to banish another 6 that's in there. It can be hard to set that Spew Shadow plus Deadwood Rumbler or Boneyard Marauder turn up and banish something on the same turn, but Deadwood Rumbler obviously does a better job of it because it draws discards and then banishes, rather than Boneyard Marauder and Hungering Slaughterbeast, which need to banish at the start. And Lunatide Plunderer obviously helps there as well, because you can Spew Shadow that, attack, it hits, you banish it. But again, that's relying on hitting. So those Blood Tributes might make it in, and the Eclipse Existence will be in the sideboard. In terms of these generics, we've got the Rouse the Ancients, which is going to function as a non-6, but hopefully we'd be able to hit one of our 7s and get it off at some point in the game. Stony Wooten Hog for 5 could be okay. Nourishing Emptiness is a 6, which is really handy. And then we've got a red Warmonger's Recital, which we'll probably bring in. Yellow Pound for Pound is kind of over there with the yellow Blood Tributes as a maybe. And then we've got Yinti Yanti and Minnowism as kind of maybe resources that we can bring in as well. A red Belittle, not going to make it, I don't think. Yellow Memorial Grounds, almost certainly not. A blue Belittle, again, goes with the Minnowism as a maybe. We just really don't have any small attacks that we're going to be wanting to play between the these 6 or more attacks, plus pretty high damage Void Wraiths, Dread Screamers, and other attacks. We're just not really going to be triggering the Belittle all that often. The Minnowism all that often. So another blue Belittle, a red Brandish. Look, we may get in with our weapons sometimes, so maybe Brandish as just a way to generate a bit more damage on those early turns. It can be pretty decent. Sorry, Warmonger's Recital belongs over there. It can be pretty decent early game for Leviah. Adrenaline Rush can come in later, and Rally the Rearguard can certainly come in later as well, for a little bit of damage. Blue Frontline Scout, blue Warmongers. Look, actually, to be honest, I think blue Warmongers is probably there. So we do have a few options for blue resource cards up here. A couple of Belittles, a Frontline Scout, and Minnowism that we could bring in. And I think these 2 Blood Tributes do probably make it. But yeah, we are just, I think, a little bit light on for 6 power attacks, only 2, 4, 6, 7 out of 30. Now, you obviously don't have to start going straight away with Blood Debt. You know, you can build up with some smaller attacks and then go for the Blood Debt later on. And this kind of feels like one of those decks that could do that reasonably well. It could be making attacks like Lunatide Plunderer, Nourishing Emptiness, Smash the Big Tree, you know, all of these guys coming in the early game, and then trying to set up some really huge turns off Unworldly Bellows, Howl from Beyond's, Convulsions from the Bellows of Hell, even Warmonger's Recital into some of these bigger attacks. Given that we've got the Hooves, the Ebenfold, and the good equipment slots, so we've got 4 pieces that will work here. I still think this could be a decent deck. It's just probably short 1 or 2 Dread Screamers, and just 1 or 2 more 6 power attacks would really push it over the edge. But how are we sitting here for cards? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Sorry, start that again. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17, 19, 21, 23, 25, 26, 27, 28. So we'd need to bring in 2 of these blues, which would be totally fine. I'd be happy to play, what have we got? All block for 2. Most of the generics in the set block for 2. Yinti Yanti not going to be blocking for more than 2 in our deck as Levia. Frontline Scout, a 0 go again, 0 for 1 go again, or Belittle as a 1 for 1 go again. Yeah, look, they're really not adding a whole lot for us. I mean, we also have some options as yellows that we can bring in. More Blood Tributes, Memorial Ground, or Pound for Pound, which is probably the most powerful card there. So like maybe that comes in, and then one of these smaller, perhaps the Frontline Scout, just as a resource that we can then play for 0 in the late game with Go Again. So that leaves us, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19, 21, 23, 25, 27, 29, 30. So we're at 30 cards there with the Eclipse Existence sideboard. And yeah, I wouldn't mind running this. I think it's got enough smaller attacks that don't require the Banish 3 early on. It's got the Nourishing Emptiness, which can obviously lead to a pretty big turn early on, but also you can set up some pretty big turns later on with it as well in Levia. And crucially, we've got enough ways to give Dominate in Convulsions from the Bellows of Hell, or the Consuming Aftermath that we've got sitting here, plus these Unworldly Bellows that are just, and the Howl from Beyond, that are going to give us the opportunity to get a lot more damage in on these key attacks, and the Warmonger's Recitals. So the last thing that I just want to do quickly to double check that I'm comfortable with the build is set up